there, friends, and welcome back to the Lark Life. The day has come for us to process our meat chickens. So back in September, we got a batch of 50 Freedom Ranger meat birds that we have been raising over the last several months. They are about 13 weeks old now, and so we are going to go ahead and get them processed today. We're here near the end of December, about a week before Christmas, and we've had some really cold weather come through the last several weeks, but we've got this warm, beautiful day, and so it was the perfect chance for us to come outside and get these meat birds processed. And so we're going to be walking you through that process today of what that looks like. Now, I will say to start, this is the first time that we have raised the Freedom Rangers for our meat before, and we've been really happy just with the process of raising them and how well they've done, how healthy they've been. Previously, we raised Cornish Cross meat birds, and they are known for their fast growth. By 8 weeks, they are fully grown and ready to go into the freezer. But our experience with those has also been that they grow so rapidly that they pretty much get to the point the last few weeks of their life where they just are laying at the feeder. They're not even really able to walk around and carry their weight on their legs. And so we wanted to give these Freedom Rangers a try. Originally, I was thinking about holding back some of them to see if we can get them to lay eggs, because unlike the Cornish Cross, the Freedom Rangers, they can live for several years and have a healthy life and be reproductive. But what I've discovered about the Freedom Rangers is that they are a terminal cross, a hybrid between a bunch of different heavier heritage breeds. And if you raise the chicks from the Freedom Rangers that you have at your own place, you may not get a Freedom Ranger, something that's true to what that is. So I've read a lot of different things. Some people go ahead and do it, and they will just hold back the biggest, fastest growing birds each generation and kind of get their meat flock to be sustainable that way. So we're still thinking through that. We'll see how far we get today with the processing of our birds. We've never tried to process 50 in one day, so we'll see how this goes. The whole family, it's all hands on deck today. Everybody has a job. Everybody's going to be doing something to help us out. They've all helped us through the whole process of raising these birds from when they were in the brooder until we moved them out onto the pasture. They have been helping feed and water them every day, and now they're going to help us process them, and we'll put them in the freezer so that we'll have this meat to eat in the future. We're very excited to have some more meat in our freezer that we've grown right here at home. We've been really happy with how the Freedom Rangers have done. They are looking really good. They're really healthy, and while they did take longer to grow than the Cornish Crosses, they are such great foragers. So you'll see them all day long just moving around the pasture, foraging for bugs and seeds and different things in the yard. And so we are looking forward to trying their meat. And so as we get all these birds processed, this will be the first time that we're actually eating any of this breed. And so I'll let you know kind of some of the differences that we notice and what we think, and if we're going to continue to do this kind of bird again in the future. So now we're going to get everything set up and ready. We're going to get our station set up where we're going to be dispatching the chickens, and then we will be dunking them in the scalding hot water pot. And this time what will help us is that we have our plucker that we got recently when we processed some ducks, and so we will have a much easier time plucking the feathers of these chickens today, and then we'll get them all cleaned up and put in bags to put in our freezer. All right, so we're going to walk you through the whole process from beginning to end of processing these meat birds today. Right now, we've got them all in an enclosure that we have so that it'll be easier for us to catch them as we go to dispatch them. We've got an area set up for that. We've got our scalding pot with the water already getting hot. We've got a propane tank burner set up with a big pot of water on it. We've put a little bit of soap in the water just to help break through the oils and stuff on the bird's feathers. I will say with the chickens, you scald them for a much shorter time than you do with the water birds like the ducks and the geese that we processed. You don't want to overdo it because you'll end up kind of damaging that skin that they have, and when you put them in the plucker, it'll come to pieces. So we're going to be scalding them, then we'll throw them in the plucker that we got while we processed our ducks. We are looking forward, this is the first time that we're going to be processing chickens with a plucker. So we've always just hand plucked them in the past, and so that should help speed up our process today. And then we'll be cleaning them out, we'll be saving the parts that we can use, and then we will get all of those things cleaned up and frozen. I am gonna probably put most of them in the freezer whole, but I am also considering piecing out some of the chickens into pieces that we use for different meals. For example, I may take most of the wings off of the birds and put those aside so that we can have several different wings. The kids like to eat chicken wings, and so we'll do that. I may piece out like the breasts and thighs and legs off of some of them, and then keep the carcasses that we can use for stock. We'll get to that later on in the day. Now let's go ahead and get over and we'll show you what it looks like to process these birds. All right, so I'm gonna show you a little bit in more detail how we clean these. So we've killed this one, we stuck it in the scalder pot, and then we ran it through the plucker to get all the feathers off. Yeah, Nick is real excited. Our laying hens are laying eggs. So once you get your chicken scalded and plucked, I'm gonna take the feet off, and so you can find the joint that's right here between the foot and the bottom of the drumstick, and it comes off pretty easily. All right, and then I'm gonna just cut the entire head off. The windpipe and the crop, everything is all connected from that head. So by cutting the head off, I'm loosening all that so that I can get that out. Now, up here in the top around the neck, you see there's the trachea and the windpipe. Then we've got a couple of pipes here, and then one is connected to the crop, which I will show you once I get here. And all of these things are really attached to the skin of the chicken. I'm running my finger around the skin here to loosen the windpipe, the trachea, and to find the crop so that we can get it away from the skin. So here you can see, here's the windpipe, and then this pipe is attached to this sack. This is their crop. So I want to pull this all free from the skin. I want to save that skin because that's where a lot of the delicious flavor is in this bird. So here's our crop right here. Now that I've kind of gotten all of that loosened, it should make it easier for me to pull it all free. Everything from the chicken is connected all the way from the head to the tail. So if we get all that loose, I should be able to pull that all out here right now. So right under the breastbone, I just make a tiny little slit. And once I've got to the membrane inside, I'm just gonna pull that open to make a little more space for me to get my hand in there and work. But I want to save all of this good chicken fat and skin. Then you just reach your hand in all the way up as far high into the bird as you can. And you are just going to roll everything out. And here comes that windpipe and that crop. If you can feel in your hands, it's got all that gritty in it. Gritty sand and rocks and stuff that they've got in there to help them chew up that food. Since they don't actually have teeth, they have to kind of crunch that all up on the inside. And then once you get to here, we're down to the last little connected thing. All of the main organs have come out. It's just the intestinal tract here that's still connected. And so I'm just gonna make a little slit. You can feel the 2 pelvic bones right here on either side. And so I just go right inside those 2 pelvic bones. All right, and this is the last little bit that's connected, so just right there by the tail, I'm gonna just make a little V cut and cut all of that. And now we've got our bird mostly cleaned out. Now I'm gonna go in, there's a tiny little piece of this pipe left up here that I'm gonna pull out, and I'm gonna scrape out the lungs with my fingers. So the lungs generally won't come out with all the rest of the organs. You generally have to scrape those out when you get everything else cleaned out inside.
They're kind of up inside the rib cage.
They're way up in the rib cage. You won't miss them. They're a hot pink color. They look different than anything else in the bird. Here they are. So this is one of the lungs. So you want to make sure you scrape those out. They're stuck to the backbone of the bird. So you just make sure you get all that out. And then that's it. This chicken is clean. I'm gonna give it a good, nice rinse, and then I'm gonna throw it in the cooler and move on to the next bird. I just wanted to show you this bird. I've moved the skin apart. This one you can see the crop and the windpipe and everything much better. So this is what you're looking for to get out of the bird. You don't want to leave that attached to that skin. You want to pull this all out. That's their crop. We did not feed them. They've just been free ranging this morning, so they're fairly empty. But if you've fed them, and you can kind of see there's like bits of grass and stuff in here. So that's what you're looking for when you're looking for that crop. You want to get that all loose, and then you'll be able to slide everything out pretty easily and get that bird cleaned quickly. I want to pause for just a second to show you how yellow the fat is on this chicken. I hope you can see that. That is not something you get from a chicken that you buy from the grocery store. I'm really happy with how these are looking. Welcome into my kitchen. So we got all 48 of our Freedom Rangers processed. We got them all cleaned up. I got them put into bags and vacuum sealed them so that they stay as fresh as possible while they're in my freezer waiting for us to use them. So we've got those. We also were able to get the 10 of our other ducks that were ready to be processed done as well. We went into the day not sure how far we would get. We were really hoping that we would be able to process all 50 of the chickens that we had originally purchased. But it's the first time that we've ever done that quantity. We've only done 20 to 25 at a time. So we weren't quite sure. This was also the first time that we've processed our chickens that we had our plucker. So if you remember several months ago when we processed our first ducks, we quickly realized that we desperately needed a plucker because plucking the ducks was completely different than plucking chickens, and it was just taking us so much time. It made it really challenging to process them without the chickens. And I didn't want to remove the skin. As I started looking and talking to people and reading, I found out a lot of people, when they process their ducks, their birds, they just take the whole skin and everything so that there's no feathers, there's no plucking. But there's so much flavor and delicious fat in that skin of that duck that I couldn't bring myself to do that. So we ended up getting a plucker, which ended up being phenomenal for this processing day that we just had, because again, we were able to process all 48. So we started with 50 Freedom Rangers. We lost 2 in our 13.5-week process of raising them. So we ended up with 48 in the freezer, which I'm thrilled about. And then out of our 14 remaining ducks that we have, we processed 10 of those. We decided to keep 1 of our male rowan ducks and 3 of the rowan females that have started laying eggs. We're using those eggs for lots of different things in the kitchen now that we have those coming in. And we want to see if we can get them to hatch out some ducklings for us come springtime. So we left those, but the other 10 we were able to process. And again, the only reason we were able to process those 58 birds, I think, is because we had that plucker, and then we had the whole family chipping in to make the day a success. Everybody had their jobs to do, and everybody, we were able to kind of keep the line moving and keep things going so that we got things done very, very quickly. We got it down to where we could process a whole bird from start to finish in just a couple of minutes. So really excited about that. We've got all of our ducks and our chickens now safely resting in our freezer, waiting until we're ready to use them and eat them. And so today I'm going to actually show you how to take one of the birds and we're going to piece it into the different pieces. A lot of people, now that you have this whole bird, it's like, what do you do with it? And yes, you can roast it whole, but if you want to do it for some other things, if you want to use it in some other ways, I want to show you kind of how to piece it out and then how to use all of the parts of this bird so that you can get the most out of this animal that you just raised on your own property. So we're gonna take this. I purposely left this one not in a vacuum sealed bag, knowing that we were gonna get to it. I've got a pan kind of off to the side. I'm gonna just be roasting this with some veggies, but I'm gonna go ahead and piece this apart so that you can see how that's done. So while we were processing our birds, I was so thrilled to see, even though these Freedom Rangers are smaller in size than the Cornish Cross birds that we have raised in the past. So in the past, we've done Cornish Crosses, and within about 8 weeks, they are massive monsters. They can't even walk around. You end up with these huge birds. You end up with really large chicken breast out of those birds. I will say that out of these birds, they did come in smaller than what we anticipated them. I think when we get some more and we raise them again come this spring, that we will let them go longer. So we let them go 13.5, almost 14 weeks from the time that we got them as 1-day-old chicks until the time that we processed them. And I think if we had the opportunity, we're on a little time crunch right now, so I think if we had the opportunity to let them go a few more weeks, things would have been a lot better. So we're learning some things about the timing here, about weather here. We're in our new climate and the best time to get the birds. And so I think we're going to get some in the spring. We'll start them sooner. We'll give them more time to grow out so that they can finish out before it gets too hot, but to give them more time so that they really size up a little bit more. I'm going to be looking at some different feeding options as well. But I loved when I started looking at these birds, we were opening them up. You could tell how healthy they were. Everything on the inside, the organs, everything looked phenomenal. They had this really nice, super yellow fat inside of them that I know was there because of all of the grazing that they were doing in our pasture, eating all the bugs and the different things that were available to them out in the pasture. So we are thrilled with the quality. I can't wait to taste it. So that's why we're going to go ahead and cut one up today and get it cooked so that we can see how it tastes compared to some of the other chickens that we've had in the past. So I'm going to start by separating the wings. Those are kind of the easiest place to start. So you're going to look for the joint where the two bones meet, where that joint is and it moves and it's flexible. You can get in between the ball of that joint and kind of separate those things. So I'm going to just take my knife right under the wing, right in that joint, and we're gonna pull it back. And so as you pull it back, it exposes that ball joint. And then we're gonna just cut the wing off right at that joint. So there's one wing. I'm gonna do the same the other side, so kind of right up under the arm of under the wing. Gonna just give it a little cut. We're gonna pop that joint out. All right, so there's our two wings. Now we're going to remove the leg quarters, so the leg and the thigh of the bird. And so again, right here in the joint of this leg, we're going to just make a little cut until we can expose that and kind of peel this whole section away from the breast and the chest section of this bird. And as soon as I get the skin cut, you can see the whole thigh and leg pulls away from this breast part. So we're just going to work with the bird and pull that away, cut the skin so that I don't lose it. I want to leave as much on the bird as possible. Okay, and once we've got that exposed, you can expose that, again, that joint, and we're just going to cut right along that joint. So now I have a leg quarter like what you would find at the store with the thigh portion and the drumstick portion. And now if you want to further cut that, we're going to just cut right here between the leg and the thigh. And a lot of times I like to start up here at the top of the drumstick. If you put your fingers, you can find like a valley, a place where that ball of the leg joint and the ball of the hip joint come together, and you're going to put your knife right in there in that valley. And then that will allow you to get in between the joint. And we're just going to cut and separate that leg from the thigh. So I've got my wings now. I've got a leg and a thigh from one side. I'm going to come and do the same on the opposite side. So just right between the leg and the breast, if you'll just slit that skin open, you'll be able to pull the leg and thigh portion away from the breast portion. And then I'm going to run my knife. All right, and we've got our leg quarter section again, and so I'm going to go ahead and same thing. I'm going to just find that valley and just cut all the way through to separate the thigh from the drumstick. And now I've got the breast on the top with this breastplate and then the whole backbone section. So we can come now and we're going to just cut right along this ribs to remove the breast from the backbone. Okay, so now I've separated the breasts from the backbone portion. I am going to just cut right down the center here, right along that plate line to separate out my two breasts portions. All right, and there's our two breasts. So we have the breasts, the thighs, the legs, and the wings. If you wanted to have boneless breasts, at this point there's just that chest plate, that breastbone underneath that you can just slide your knife and run it right along. Right now they're basically like the split breasts on the bone, and now you can just remove that and you would have a nice chunk of breast meat that you could use as a boneless, skinless chicken breast like you would find in the grocery store. So there's our main cuts. Now, with this backbone, you can take this and you can either immediately put this in a stock pot with some water and some veggies, some aromatic veggies, or you can throw this in a crock pot and you can let it just cook low and slow to make a delicious broth that you can then use for all sorts of things in your cooking in your kitchen. If you don't want to mess with just doing one at a time, you can put these in a Ziploc bag and throw them right back in the freezer. And then once you have several of them, you can take that whole big bunch of them and throw them in the pot and do the same thing and have a large, if you want to do more of a large batch chicken stock day that you could then can and preserve that chicken stock, you could just put these in the freezer and save them to do that. Usually I'm using the stock pretty regularly in my kitchen. My kids love to have like chicken and dumplings, chicken noodle soup. There's lots of different recipes that we're using that stock in. So usually I'll just take this right away. And if it doesn't end up getting cooked with the chicken that I'm cooking, then I'll throw it in a pot and let it simmer low and slow to give us a really delicious stock that we can then use for other recipes. So now that I've got this pieced, I'm just going to season this up. I've got a pot already set aside in my kitchen with some vegetables so that I can get this cooked up for our dinner tonight so that we can taste it. But now you can see how you can kind of take this and use all of the bird, whether you cook it whole or you put it into pieces, that then you can cook and turn into all of the delicious things that you're used to buying the chicken from the store and making. Once we get this cooked up and we give it a taste, I'll let you know how that goes. But so far, I'm very pleased with our decision to go with the Freedom Ranger chickens this year, as opposed to the Cornish Cross chickens that we've raised in the past. Though they are a little smaller, I love the quality that I'm seeing of the bird, the good rich colors and the fat and the things that I'm seeing that I never saw with the Cornish Crosses that we raised. I watched these Freedom Rangers actually be chickens in our backyard and scratch and forage like chickens do. That's something that we never saw our Cornish Cross chicks do. So we're looking forward to tasting this. I hope that this video helped you out and encouraged you to raise some of your own meat. I'll put a link to a few other videos where you can kind of see why we're raising some of our own meat, and you can see some of the things that we do with this meat that we're raising. Until next time.